Hello, Joe.
Hi, Haley, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to Ailey Fashion Lovers Chat Show.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
Can you tell us about yourself, please?
Yeah, so my name is Joseph Rebelli. I'm a content creator and podcaster. I am the host of A Cup of Joe. And, I started my career and my business in social media a couple of years ago. I started as a content creator. Now I am a business coach and I coach startups and, content creators to really work strategically on social media.
Oh, brilliant. In today's episode, we are talking about fear. So Joe, can you tell us about fear? What's your take on about fear?
Fear is a very interesting topic, It's really funny how we change when we grow up. When you're a kid, you are scared about, let's say, spiders, and your parents teaching you that anything that scares you, you shouldn't be close to. And fear, when you grow up, is kind of instead the opposite. I think I always use fear as a drive and as a GPS for follow what I really want to achieve as a goal. So it's interesting how we switch from a negative thought to a positive one.
Great. So Joe, can you share a moment of fear which you have encountered before?
Yeah, so when I changed country, I was really scared and I had the fear of not making it, not really adapting. When I moved to London, I am originally from Venice in Italy. So when you change completely your environment, your country, and the place where you live and everything, you go through so many changes at the same time, and this can be quite scary. And it's one of those things, you're always scared that you're not going to like it. But at the end of the day, I think the best way to deal with fear is to really kind of peel it down and peel it off in layers.
Right.
Peel off the layers and say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? I moved to a different country, I don't like it, I can move back, it's fine. Or, you change in job, you don't like it, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen there? It's, I don't like it, I might not feel motivated, or I might change it. There is always a reason why there is a fear, and I think the key point here is to really dive in and try to find out what that particular fear comes from.
Okay, great. Okay, Joe, what would be your advice for someone who is facing a fear of change?
So it's totally normal that you have fears. It's your body telling you that, it's something that you're not used to do, and it's something that you normally are not familiar with, which is why your mind, but also your body is kind of holding you there. What you have to do is to really use that as a drive to, be even more hungry, if you will, to what you want to achieve. And I think, fear of change is a big one. And there's always going to be a change, and changes are good because they make you upscale, progress, and be the best version of yourself, really.
I agree, absolutely. Great. Myself, I feel fear is a kind of feelings you develop before facing something. So, and I can classify fear into two ways. So they can either be positive or they could either be negative.
Absolutely.
So what do I mean by that? So the negative fear makes you kind of like, it can drive you to have anxiety or panic attacks. Is a kind of, when you have fear, it drives you to succeed, to move beyond your comfort zone. So say for instance, you mentioned you moved from your country into Britain, and during that period you experienced fear of change. So which is true. I wasn't originally from Britain either, so I did have a little bit of fear. But how I deal with my fear is, kind of surrounding myself with positive-minded people. So I also network. So my way of networking, I use that to kind of like refresh myself, refresh my skills, and that creates like helps me to build bigger community. So which means if I'm having a fear of anything or any topic in particular, within the community which I have created, I know either one or two, three person can always guide me and lead me to the direct path in my lifetime.
I agree with you. It's, it's really important to surround yourself with people that really believe, support you, and empower you to what you want to do. And, you cannot lie to everyone, and that's okay. If people don't really understand or they don't really fully support you, what you do, that means they're not your people.
I agree, absolutely. How I kind of like deal with fear, I deal with fear in different ways. Say for instance, if I experience something that kind of like creates a bigger fear for me, so what I tend to do is I take a deep breath, or in order to reassure myself, like calm myself down, I try to focus on the problem and see how I can detach my thinking from that problem whilst also trying to resolve it at the same time.
Right.
So that's how I deal with it. And my other way around it again is I talk to somebody, a positive-minded people who can always like support me.
Right.
And lastly, I would say how I tend to manage my fear or face my fear is by doing things I love.
Yeah.
Say,
absolutely.
Great. So say, I don't know if do you agree with that? Like doing things you love in order to kind of take yourself away from the fear?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as you said, you touch on a really key point here, which is really separate your mind with your body, because anxiety is mainly coming from what you're thinking. And, really, I suffer anxiety and panic attacks. So I really had to kind of retrain myself, if you will, and learn how to deal with it, because it used to be something that never came to me before, but now it happens very often, and I have to force myself to deal with it. And the fear of getting a reaction of your body that is not expected and you're not really sure how to control is even worse. So learning how to understand the reason why it's happening and where it's coming from, it's going to really help you to deal with fear, anxiety, anything that could possibly be a negative thoughts for your body in the best possible way.
Great. And can I just put something to this? Do you know fear can be created or instilled into us either through our childhood, like how we were being brought up?
Oh yeah. Very often, for the way your parents educate you, they tend to really transfer their fears into you, because they haven't succeeded in a certain thing. They don't want to expose you in a certain situation because they are scared that you're going to be rejected or you're going to fail. But failure, rejection, and those kind of experiences are what really make your skin thicker, and you can't really grow as a person if you don't experience those situations where you get rejected or where you have failure, let's say, right? I see many parents that say, they come from a place of protection, but that protection is not really giving them any benefit in terms of, future in education. My mom was very protective of me, and God knows how much that was a problem when I grew up, because I realized that I wasn't ready into certain situations. And thank goodness this situation happened to me, because now I know how to deal with it. And if I ever have a baby, I will ensure that instead of transfer my fears to him, try to actually teach him how to deal with them.
I tell you, that's a very good point you've mentioned over there. Like if you have children, you will find a way not to transfer that fear into them.
Right.
That's a good point. So myself, I've got children. So during my childhood, my father instilled a lot of fear in me, so much that when I grew up, each time I sleep, I dream of it. So I kind of re-experience what has happened in the past. So it makes me panic so much. But when I started having children, I read a couple of books ago, I learned that you need to allow children to feel. Don't put the fear into them.
Yeah, you need to let them experience
it.
What really happens. You know, you can't really make them in a bubble. Like, you can't make them in a glass.
I agree. Absolutely.
You know, it's just important, and I see many people do that, and you know, it might feel great for you, but in terms of looking into the perspective of the future, it's not the best thing, in my opinion. But you know, everybody is different, so it's
Great.
one of those things. Everyone has a different way of education, and I think, you know, if that's the way I would do it, the way you probably would do it. But you know, it's great that everyone is different, and the great point of this is actually to make it everyone experience and then kind of take your own conclusion of it.
I agree. Let them learn by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from their experience, then they can know that, okay, this is what is good for me, this is what is not too good for me.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's great. So Joe, how can you use your skills to empower your community?
Oh, that's such a good question, actually. Well, I think, you know, to really empower someone and to really influence them in the best way, you need to really be authentic, and you need to be relatable.
Correct.
And you need to also show your vulnerability, you know, because so many times, how can you expect people to really be empowered by you or influenced by you, if you will? You know, I mean, I work into obviously content creation, and there is loads of social media involved, right?
Oh,
and
correct.
you know, we all know on social media there are
God.
some very interesting, you know, people that show a different side of their life, which is fine, and everyone have the freedom to do whatever they want. But I think, in my point of view, and the reason why my community grow in the way that he has, is to really ensure that you show you, because people don't really want to see nothing more than yourself, right? You want to be relatable, you want to be a person that has that particular you know, connection to the community. And I think my skills in here are actually I can really transfer what I learned in my previous job. You know, I work with different organizations, and I was in business development and account management for various company international. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to my expertise and to my job. So I think people relate to that, and they know that at the end of it, there is also a real person behind that picture on Instagram.
That's good. So you use your experience, which you've gained from your business development in the past, to reassure new business owners and hold business owners. Right.
So the way I like to say it, I empower new entrepreneurs to really discover their zone of genius. Right.
Okay.
You know, when I was a kid, you obviously, when you're a baby and you're a kid, you start to understand what are your passions. And I remember my grandma used to tell me, don't worry about it if you don't find it right now, because everyone is good at something, you just need to find out what it is. And, you know, I think lots of people have so much to give and so much talent to really share.
Correct.
And by not knowing how to do it, they're actually stealing from themselves the chance to share that gift with somebody else. And this is where I like to come in and say, okay, great, you're amazing at that. How can we turn this into something that can really value you as a person, but also to be a value for somebody else?
Great. So that's great. Thank you very much, Joe. You've done very well.
Thank you so much.
And I'm pretty sure my community here would love to reach out to you sometime.
Absolutely. So you guys can find me at Joseph Rebelli on Instagram, and I also have, as I mentioned earlier, a podcast called A Cup of Joe that you can hear on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you're more than welcome to follow me on Instagram, and I can answer to each and every one of your questions. I'm very active out there. And we also have a group called Empower You, up-level your content and your business over on Facebook, which is where we have a community mostly of women, where we actually talk about marketing strategies, PR, and so much more. So if you want to join us there, we are waiting for you.
Great, thank you very much. So thank you very much, viewers. Thanks for having us here today, and hope to see you in the next episode. So feel free to subscribe, like, comment and share. So if there is any topic you would like me to talk about, DM me or send me an email, then I shall look into it. So once again, thank you very much for watching. And remember, Ailey really loves you. Catch you later. Bye. Cheers.